My soon-to-be ex-wife and I are both in our late 30s. We've been together for 12 years and married for 10. We are in a dead bedroom. It was completely dead for 6 months before I filed for divorce. It was on life support ICU for 6 years before that. We both wanted to be younger parents and both wanted 2 kids. We conceived our daughter almost immediately after getting married. When she was 6 months old, we started trying to have a second child. It never happened. After 3 years, we started seeing fertility specialists and found out that we both have pretty serious reproductive issues. The doctor told us that our daughter was nothing short of a miracle and said it was against all odds that we not only conceived but carried to term. It was after this that the intimacy life began to seriously decline. Initially, I thought it was just the pain of finding out and knowing that we wouldn't be able to afford the fertility options, and I figured it would get better over time. It never did. It only got worse. 5 years ago, I would say we had intimacy 15 to 20 times that year. In 2023, we had intimacy 3 times. I have tried everything to improve this, spicing things up, talking, suggesting counseling. I more than pull my weight around the house. We both work basically the same hours. I'm telling this because the usual stuff I read on Reddit about how the wife does it all is not even close to true. Over time, I have grown more and more resentful. The thing that makes me the most resentful is that she knows I have a high libido and just doesn't care. I, on the other hand, know she loves to be rubbed, massaged, and never took that away from her. I probably rub her 325 times a year. Almost every night, I will rub her calves, shins, ankles, and feet. 4 to 5 nights a month, I will go big and do her neck, shoulders, back, butt, hamstrings, quads, shins, calves, ankles, and feet. I noticed that doing the big massages was the best way to get intimacy, as she was more likely to allow me to do the foreplay things I know work on her if I'd already done this preparation. I did them more often a few years ago, but now not as much. The success rate was never that great, maybe 20% of the time, but in the last 2 years, we are definitely in the single digits. When we hit the 4 months of absolutely no intimacy, I decided I wasn't going to rub her ever again. It only took 3 days for her to notice, and she asked me to. I told her no, and I got angry. I said, "Why should I, when you don't give a frick about what I want?" Obviously not my finest moment, and a huge argument followed. Things got ice cold at home, but I wasn't giving in. I was tired of all of it. A few weeks ago, she told me, "Fine, I will just start seeing a professional masseuse." I said, "Then I will start seeing intimacy workers." She said that was cheating. I said, "Fine, I won't, but you will not get a massage from anyone else. That is also cheating." She said I was being ridiculous, and I said, "No, it's being touched in an intimate way by another. If I can't have that, neither can you. And I swear to freaking God, if you do, I will file for divorce that day." The following weekend, she went to get her nails done. I know how long it takes for her to get her nails done. She came back almost an hour and a half later than I expected. She didn't say anything, just acted normal. I got on her credit card app on my phone, and sure enough, there was a $95 charge to the goddamn massage person in the same strip mall as the nail place. I lost it, and when I did, so did she. I think we both let out years of frustration on each other. True to my word, though, I called a divorce lawyer on Monday. The only part that upset me was my lawyer said, based on these circumstances, I couldn't list infidelity as the reason for divorce and had to go with irreconcilable differences. Anyway, she has been telling people we are divorcing because she got a massage. Since then, I have had a number of family members/friends call me and say I'm a jerk. Some of them even, when I tell them my real reasons, still think I'm a jerk and that my reasons aren't good enough. Personally, I think getting a massage when told not to is plenty of reasoning. So, am I the jerk here? Personal note. I reread this and I know it comes off angry. But I am angry. Angry at myself for wasting so many years. But I'm also angry because this was just the ultimate frick you. She just went and did it anyway and didn't even try to hide it. Literally went to the same place next to the nail salon and used her credit card, which I pay, like I wasn't going to see the charge. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Trying to list infidelity as a reason for the divorce, laughing out loud. A massage by a strip mall auntie is not cheating. If you had jumped to intimacy workers like you threatened to, that would have 100% been cheating though. You are not compatible with each other anymore. That is a cool and fine reason to get divorced. It is asshole-ish to try to slap infidelity onto it just because you are mad. Comment 2. Since then, I have had a number of family members' friends call me and say I'm a jerk. I always marvel at how this is in practically every story. If any of my friends or family tried to text me to give their unsolicited opinion about my personal life, they would get laughed at first and then told to mind their own freaking business. Not the idiot now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks. I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. After I filed for divorce, things got even more tense between my wife and I. We barely spoke to each other, and when we did, it was usually just arguing. Our daughter could sense the tension, and it was starting to affect her too. She would ask me why mommy and daddy were always mad at each other, and it broke my heart. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for our daughter's sake, but it was hard. My wife and I would take turns staying with her while the other one stayed somewhere else. It was a difficult adjustment for all of us. As the divorce proceedings started, my wife and I had to go through mediation to try and come to an agreement on things like custody and division of assets. It was a long and exhausting process. We both had our own lawyers, and it felt like we were constantly battling each other. During one of the mediation sessions, my wife brought up the fact that I had threatened to see intimacy workers if she got a massage. She tried to use it against me, saying that I was the one who was unfaithful. I couldn't believe she would stoop so low. My lawyer argued that it was just a heat-of-the-moment comment and that I never actually followed through with it. But the damage was done. The mediator looked at me differently after that, and I could tell it was affecting the negotiations. As we continued to go through the divorce process, more and more of our dirty laundry was aired out. My wife's lawyer brought up the fact that I had stopped giving her massages and tried to paint me as a neglectful husband. It was frustrating because they didn't understand the full context of the situation. Meanwhile, I was struggling to come to terms with the end of my marriage. I had been with my wife for so long, and the thought of starting over was daunting. I found myself reflecting on our relationship and wondering where things had gone wrong. I remembered how excited we were when we first got married and started trying for a family. We had so many hopes and dreams for the future. But after we found out about our fertility issues, things started to change. My wife became distant and withdrawn. She stopped wanting to be intimate with me, and I could tell she was hurting. I tried to be there for her, but she pushed me away. Over time, the lack of physical and emotional intimacy took a toll on our relationship. I know I wasn't perfect either. I let my resentment build up instead of communicating with my wife about how I was feeling. I should have tried harder to understand what she was going through and been more patient. As the divorce proceedings continued, I started to worry about how it would affect our daughter. I didn't want her to grow up in a broken home, but I also knew that staying in an unhappy marriage wasn't good for anyone. My wife and I eventually came to an agreement on custody and decided to split time with our daughter evenly. It wasn't ideal, but it was the best we could do given the circumstances. Now that the divorce is almost finalized, I'm trying to focus on moving forward. It hasn't been easy, but I know it's for the best. I'm hoping that with time, my wife and I can find a way to co-parent effectively and give our daughter the love and support she needs. I've also been trying to take care of myself during this process. I started seeing a therapist to work through my emotions and figure out what I want for my future. It's been helpful to have someone to talk to who isn't involved in the situation. As I look back on my marriage, I have a lot of regrets. I wish I had communicated better with my wife and tried harder to understand her perspective. I also wish I had been more proactive about seeking help for our issues, instead of letting them fester. But I also know that I can't change the past. All I can do is learn from my mistakes and try to be a better person moving forward. I'm hopeful that with time and effort, I can build a new life for myself and my daughter. Thanks for reading, and for all the support during this difficult time. It means a lot to know that I'm not alone in this. My sister-in-law manipulates me into postpartum depression and steals my baby, but I fight back and ensure she never sees us again. My sister-in-law, Sil, cannot physically have children, but she did adopt her daughter 11 years ago. Her daughter is 12. About 2 years ago, she started pressuring her husband a lot about wanting to adopt another baby, but he was never on board. It wasn't too long after she started expressing her desire to adopt another baby that I became pregnant. At first, my sister-in-law didn't say much to me, but when I was around 5 months pregnant, she started to mess with me. She started inviting me over all the time and often made me doubt my ability to take care of a child due to my history of depression. She constantly said things like, "I'm worried about you," or "I fear you will have postpartum psychosis," and she said everything in such a way that I started to believe her. It messed with my head almost every night. This continued until I was almost due, and it kept getting worse. Her last couple comments were, "I'm not sure if you can handle it, and if something goes wrong, I'm going to have to fight my brother for custody of the baby," and "You know I will take custody of the baby if you can't handle it." It got to me so much that I stupidly thought she was just showing concern and not being manipulative. Anyways, I gave birth in October, and my sister-in-law came over to see the baby when she was about 2 weeks old. When she was holding her, the baby started to cry, and I went to take her back, but my sister-in-law shooed me away and said, "No, she's fine," and just started bouncing my kid until she eventually fell asleep. Unfortunately, I did have postpartum depression, PPD, and I just didn't say anything. I clammed up, and as soon as she left 2 hours later, I lost it. I cried while holding my daughter, and honestly, it made my PPD worse. Because of that interaction, I didn't want anyone near my daughter or holding her. I ended up seeking therapy. I'm much better now, but through therapy, I have developed a strong sense of self and confidence. Through therapy and reflection, I can now see that my sister-in-law was using manipulation tactics to make me feel inferior so she could get custody of my daughter. Well, she asked me last week if she could come steal the baby away for some cuddles. I told her no. She asked why, and I was honest. I said that I don't trust her because of all her comments during my pregnancy and her refusal to give my daughter back to me when I asked her to during her last visit. Therefore, she is not allowed to be around my baby at all. She argued that I can't just cut her off without warning and claimed that this proves she was right and that I'm clearly having a manic episode. She told me that I'm putting my baby in danger by not allowing family, aka her, to take the baby so I can get my head on right. I blocked her on everything, but now she's trying to involve my mother-in-law and cause problems for my husband. Am I the jerk, AIT? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Your sister-in-law sounds deranged, and I hope that your husband is present and actively supporting you. If mother-in-law and sister-in-law are causing problems, it's on him to immediately shut it down and say they've overstepped boundaries and tried to convince you to give up your baby. This child is yours and your husband's, and he needs to be proactive in helping protect you both. Comment 2, install cameras in your house. I bet you that sister-in-law will kidnap your baby. Block your mother-in-law and tell her that you will block her access to the baby if she enables this dangerous and deranged behavior from sister-in-law. Use that shiny new spine of yours to obtain inner peace and enjoy your precious time with your little one. Congratulations. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post, and a lot has happened in the past few days. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, but there's quite a bit to unpack. 3 days ago, my husband and I were having a quiet evening at home when we heard a frantic knocking at the door. It was my sister-in-law, Sil, and she was in tears. She told us that her husband had left her and that she had nowhere else to go. Despite our recent issues, we couldn't turn her away in her time of need, so we let her stay in our guest room. The next morning, my sister-in-law seemed to be in better spirits. She apologized for her past behavior and said that she wanted to make amends. She offered to watch our daughter while my husband and I went out for a much-needed date night. I was hesitant at first, but my husband convinced me that it would be a good opportunity for them to bond. When we returned home later that evening, we found the house in complete disarray. There were toys and baby clothes scattered everywhere, and our daughter was nowhere to be found. We searched the entire house, but there was no sign of her or my sister-in-law. I was in a state of panic, and my husband immediately called the police. It turned out that my sister-in-law had taken our daughter and fled the state. The police were able to track her down and bring our baby home safely, but the whole ordeal left us shaken. We later found out that my sister-in-law's husband had left her because she had been secretly trying to get pregnant without his knowledge, and when he found out, he was furious. In the aftermath of this incident, my husband and I had a long talk about our relationship with my sister-in-law. We realized that her obsession with having another child had driven her to do something unthinkable, and we knew that we couldn't trust her around our daughter anymore. It was a difficult decision, but we decided to cut off all contact with her. Looking back, I can see how my sister-in-law's past behavior was a red flag. She had always been a bit unstable, but I never thought she would go to such lengths to get what she wanted. When we were younger, she would often lash out at me and my husband whenever things didn't go her way. She had a short temper and a tendency to hold grudges, but we always chalked it up to her difficult upbringing. Now, I realize that her past behavior was a warning sign of deeper issues. Her obsession with having another child had consumed her, and she was willing to do anything to make it happen. It's a harsh reality, but sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones who hurt us the most. In the end, my husband and I are just grateful to have our daughter back home safe and sound. We know that we'll have to be more cautious in the future, but we're determined to do whatever it takes to protect our little family. Thanks for reading, everyone. It's been a tough few days, but we're taking things one day at a time. My ex-wife thought she could use our son to ruin my new relationship, but I showed her that being a good dad comes first, and now she's eating her words. I am a 55-year-old male, and my girlfriend of 3 years is a 40-year-old female. My ex-wife and I divorced 4.5 years ago, and she hasn't quite gotten over it. She divorced me for her coworker. She was hurtful, and we fought all the time. Anyway, when that relationship failed, she started being nice to me. I have a 15-year-old son named Sean. We have a great relationship. His mother and I are starting to co-parent better. Here is the issue. His mother can't stand the fact that I am in a relationship and she is no longer seeing her coworker. She can't seem to keep a boyfriend right now. She's quite difficult to be with. She hates my girlfriend, and therefore Sean and my girlfriend do not have a relationship as Sean does whatever his mother says. I've tried talking with Sean. He is somewhat like his mother. My girlfriend will not force a relationship either. She says if someone doesn't want to be a part of her life, then she doesn't need them. I have to agree, as my son and ex-wife have been unfair to her. Now, this past week, I've been out of town for work. I already informed my ex and my son that I wouldn't be around. My girlfriend decided to take some time this week to do things she's wanted to do around the house, some repairs and decorating. My ex called me to tell me that she met someone and wanted to know if Sean can stay at my house while she spends the weekend with this guy. I told her that Sean is perfectly capable of staying home at their house by himself. She said that she doesn't want him home alone and that he is scared in case something happens. She insisted that she will drop him off at my house. I told her that my girlfriend is not going to watch him. She is not obligated to watch someone who has treated her like shoot for the entire time we have been together, and that Sean can stay home at his house. My girlfriend has tried in the past to have a relationship with them both, and they have refused. So that ship has sailed unless my girlfriend really wants to, which at this point I'd say no, because we all know that they are just using her, and I am not allowing that. My ex-wife says I am choosing my girlfriend over our son, which I don't feel that I am. I feel that I am choosing to teach my son that listening to his mother and acting like her will cause him to face consequences down the road. I even talked to my girlfriend, and she says she doesn't feel comfortable being at home with a 15-year-old who practically hated her. And it just being the two of them, knowing how he and his mother can be. She said if things were different and they had a great relationship, she wouldn't mind, but not this way. I support her, and I don't want her to feel uncomfortable either. My son comes over every other weekend, and this isn't even our weekend either. So you all tell me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. If your ex doesn't want your son to be at home alone, then she should cancel her plans because it's not your weekend to watch him. The co-parenting is between you and your wife and has nothing to do with your girlfriend. The fact that they don't get along just strengthens your position. However, ultimately this is a secondary issue. Edited for typo. Comment 2, not the idiot. It's asking for trouble to have a poorly mannered 15-year-old in the house with your girlfriend when you are not present. You are not choosing one over the other. You are choosing peace and safety for both. For all you know, this is a setup for false accusations because the ex and son want to break you up. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all the support and advice. It's been a busy few days since then, and I've got some updates to share with you all. So after I told my ex that Sean couldn't stay at my place while she went off with her new guy, things got pretty heated. She started going off on me, saying I was a terrible father and that I was putting my girlfriend before our son. I tried to explain to her that it wasn't about choosing sides, but about respecting boundaries and not forcing uncomfortable situations. But she wasn't having it. She hung up on me, and I thought that was the end of it. But then the next day, I got a call from Sean's school. Apparently, he had gotten into a fight with another kid and was being suspended for a few days. When I asked what happened, the principal told me that Sean had been acting out lately and that this wasn't the first incident. I was shocked. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. I tried calling my ex to talk about it, but she wouldn't pick up. Finally, I got a text from her saying that she was too busy with her new boyfriend to deal with Sean's problems, and that I needed to handle it. I was furious. How could she just abandon our son like that? I ended up having to cut my work trip short and come home to deal with everything. When I got back, I sat down with Sean and tried to talk to him about what was going on. At first, he was defensive and didn't want to open up, but eventually he broke down and told me that he was struggling with the divorce and all the changes in our family. He said he felt like he didn't belong anywhere anymore, and that he was angry all the time. It broke my heart to hear him say those things. I realized that I had been so focused on my own life and my relationship with my girlfriend that I had neglected to see how much my son was hurting. I apologized to him and promised that I would be there for him more, no matter what. Over the next few days, I spent a lot of time with Sean, just talking and hanging out. We went to the movies, played video games, and even went fishing together. It was nice to reconnect with him and to see him start to open up more. But things with my ex were still tense. She was furious that I had left my work trip early and accused me of not taking my job seriously. She also started spreading rumors about my girlfriend, saying that she was trying to replace her as Sean's mother. It was all so ridiculous and petty, but I knew I had to address it. I ended up sitting down with my ex and having a long, honest conversation about everything. I told her that I understood how hard the divorce had been on her and Sean, but that we needed to find a way to co-parent effectively. I also made it clear that my girlfriend was not trying to replace her, and that she had always been respectful of their relationship. To my surprise, my ex actually listened and seemed to take what I was saying to heart. She admitted that she had been struggling with the divorce, and that she had been taking her anger and frustration out on me and my girlfriend. She apologized for her behavior and said that she wanted to do better for Sean's sake. It was a small step, but it felt like a big victory. I knew that there was still a long way to go, but I was hopeful that we could find a way to make things work for our son's sake. As for my girlfriend, she had been incredibly supportive throughout the whole ordeal. She had given me space to deal with everything, and had even offered to watch Sean for a few hours so I could get some work done. I knew that I was lucky to have her in my life and that she truly cared about me and my son. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realized that the past had a way of catching up with you, no matter how much you tried to move on. But I also knew that it was never too late to make things right and to be there for the people you love. Thanks for reading, everyone. It's been a tough few days, but I'm feeling hopeful for the future. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!